Hello, writers. It's Megan Barnhart coming at you live from Write with Megan. And today I'm going to talk about how to write about ordinary things in extraordinary ways. This is going to be helpful to you, especially if you're writing in a setting that exists in real life. But even if you're writing fantasy, this can be a way to re-examine your world. If it's become very familiar to you, if you really know it well, this will be kind of a reboot and a recharge. So put in your questions about writing about ordinary settings. Hey Dave, hey Sapphire, good to see you. I will get us shared in the Write with Megan Facebook group. If you are not already over there hanging out with us, please do come join. You can just do a search on Facebook groups for Write with Megan. This is a place for authors, aspiring authors, bloggers, anybody who's writing and wants some writing community, an opportunity to connect, find critique buddies, and just share your writing. Come on and join us there. And for some reason, I can't share our video. Okay, well, I tried. Let it be known that I tried. I will share it after the broadcast. So if you're watching and you see a comment in the Write with Megan Facebook group, would you please do me a favor? Would you hop on over there and tag those people who are asking and say, hey, come watch over on the page. Thank you. Hey, Wayne. Hey, Anne. Hey, Carmen. Hi, Lori. Happy belated birthday. I hope you had a good one. All right. So I was inspired to talk about how to write about ordinary things in extraordinary ways because of a comment from somebody in the Write with Megan Facebook group who said, man, I can write fantasy, I can write fan fiction, but when I go to set a story in a place I know, all of a sudden I dry up and it feels really challenging. So does anybody else relate to that? Have you had the experience where you go to set a story in a circumstance or a physical location that you know well, maybe that you've even been to or that you live in, and you're like, what do I say? How do I describe this? Let me know, leave a comment or give me an emoji. Have you ever struggled to write about a setting or maybe even people or like everyday things that you see in your life and make them jump off the page and seem interesting? I think this is pretty common. So first I want to talk about the why, and that will open the door to talking about how to address this. And I've got a resource for you that I made because I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And I was like, oh, I've got some specific ideas. So I'll go through those, but I also wrote them down and I'll share a link where you can go grab them for free. All you have to do is just sign up with your email. So I will share that later on. Okay, so the reason I think this happens, and you let me know if you think it's something different, but the reason I think it can be harder to write about everyday people, places, and things is we're not examining them as writers, we're examining them as human beings. We're living, like, what's exciting? I'm looking for an object around me, like, what's exciting about a water glass or a mason jar that's really a water glass? We tend to take for granted the objects we interact with all of the time, the places we interact with all of the time, and even, unfortunately, the people or the types of people we interact with all of the time. So if you're writing about a warrior goblin or a lake of lava that, burns people, those are going to be something new that you're inventing. So you're likely going, ooh, okay, what color would it be? And what would it smell like in that pool of lava? Versus, it's a glass. I'll just say it's a glass. Now, you certainly don't have to describe every common object in your story with the level of depth and detail you would use to describe that pit of lava. But if you're feeling stuck, then taking a second look at these everyday people, places, and things is what will ignite your imagination. And of course, that will translate to engaging your readers. So is that making sense? That really what you need to do is see normal things with new eyes? Okay. Oh, Dave, thank you so much for sharing in Write with Megan that the video is not over there yet, but it will be. I'll make sure to add it to the group. Yeah, Lori says, yes, because you know them so well, you don't see them anymore. Yes, bingo. So I had that same thought, and that's what, let like that's what was leading me to think of questions that could spark your imagination and invite you to see everyday objects in new ways. So this is one of the things that I end up putting on that resource, but I'll just describe it. A really simple exercise you can do to see things in a new way is to go out of the room that you're currently in, stand in the doorway, close your eyes, walk back in, maybe, turn yourself around, whatever, so it's a complete luck of the draw, open your eyes, and the first thing you see, imagine you're seeing it for the very first time, and just go to town describing it, the color and the sound it makes and the smell. And you can do this as a free writing activity, and you can just practice your 5 senses description, where you write as much detail as you possibly can about that object. So that's not necessarily something that then will go in your book, right? Like, and then the magical Post-its. Although I think it's kind of cool to have everyday objects that have magical properties. But what you're doing is building your chops, right? So again, this was all prompted by somebody saying, I have the darndest time writing about settings I've actually been in, places I know, worlds that are real. And if you like beef up on your skill at writing description, then you'll be much better at describing everyday places, and you're also going to train your eye to see those things. And like you can use this all of the time, right? So what I described is just you go out of the room, you close your eyes, you come back in the room, and you open your eyes and let yourself focus on something. Imagine you're seeing it for the first time and just describe it. Hey, Marina. Okay, Dave says, having the character use an object in a different way. For example, I have a character place an unlit pipe upside down in his mouth to show that he is using it to help him think and not to smoke. So it's like this, putting the pipe in my mouth is the thing that helps me think, but I don't even have to light it. Oh, that's too funny. Carmen says, I think about places like a tourist would be visiting them for the first time. Yes, this is such a great tool to use, such a great skill to use. So for, let me actually look at the resource so I can describe more of these to you. Okay, so the way this resource is broken down is by first people, and then places, and then objects. So I'll go ahead and share the link where you can grab this. Again, it's a free download. You just have to put in your email and get this, writing about ordinary things in extraordinary ways. Okay. And the reason I called it uplevel is because this is something that will upload or uplevel your writing. All right. So for people, well, we started with objects. Let's continue with objects. So I told you about the walk out of the room and then come back in. Something else that I like to do is imagine a character finding something that's been neglected. So maybe this is under the bed or behind a cupboard. It's covered in dust. What is it? And why is it there? Ooh, right? So this is an opportunity to take something that might be an everyday object. Maybe it's a pencil, but why is it there? And the reason it's there might spark a thought for you. Anybody seen the movie Amelie? So what sets everything in motion in that movie is her dropping the cap of the toothpaste, I believe, and going to fish it out and reaching underneath the washstand in the bathroom and finding what is clearly the treasure box of a small child. And then she's trying to find the guy who was the owner, and it opens up this whole world for her where she's imagining, or she's wondering about people and objects they leave behind. But have an Amelie moment for your character. Have your character reach underneath something and find something covered in dust, and it might be a very everyday object, but it could be a way of looking at that object differently that sets other things in motion. Or what about picking a random object from your surroundings and inventing a secret purpose for it? Like, who left this object behind? Why? What does it really do? And is its purpose sinister? Is it helpful? Is it humorous? So, looking around and going like, the tissue that's not really a tissue. Did anybody else used to watch Get Smart? the silly spy series. And there were all the time objects that would do things that weren't, it's riffing on James Bond, right? So James Bond always has like the fountain pen. Oh, but James, watch out! It's not a fountain pen; it's actually a poison dart, right? So think about what object, what deeper significance it could have. Now, if you're writing in a normal everyday setting, maybe you can't incorporate that things are magical, but maybe there's a magnet on your main character's refrigerator, and for her, it's not just a magnet. Like there's some big, deep story behind it. And so when in chapter 7, when the love interest like picks up the magnet from the refrigerator and is handling it and doesn't know the deeper story, and she freaks out and is like, get out now, right? Something interesting can happen. Okay. Yep, Agent 99 and the shoe phone. Yeah, I loved Get Smart. So those were all about objects. Let's pause here for a moment. What other ideas do you have about using objects? Dave said, hey, what about using an object in a different way, using the pipe as a thinking tool? You're not even smoking the pipe. How else do you bring everyday objects into your writing and make them interesting? Look at them with new eyes, invite your readers to see them with new eyes. Please go ahead and share any thoughts, any inspiration you have. Maybe it's something you've written, or maybe it's something that you've read in a book or seen in a film. What really inspires you when it comes to using objects in new ways? Any Doctor Who fans? Gosh, maybe I'm not thinking of a particular scene, but I'm sure there's got to be a moment. When Doctor Who regenerates and he's got a kind of naivete, and he doesn't know what stuff is. Yeah, that can, if you imagine, or if you create that for yourself, and just kind of walk around in your world and in your setting, go, I don't know what stuff is. How would I describe it? Okay, so on that note, let's move on to places. A really fun activity you can do in your setting is to pretend you are an alien in your setting. So if you're world building because you're writing fantasy, you have already done this. You've already sat down and thought, well, what exists in this world and what's it for and how do the natives use it and what's the history and the story behind it. But you can ask all of those questions about everyday places if you're writing about a realistic setting and a setting that you're familiar with. Pretend you're an alien. And so a really easy venue that I'm sure everybody has some experience with is an entertainment venue. So this might be a theater, a movie theater, a sports arena, a local baseball field, a local baseball diamond. Imagine you're an alien and go to that place in your mind or go to that place in real life and describe what your 5 senses tell you, detached from what the purpose of it is. Like if you didn't know the reason we have baseball diamonds, how would you describe that? And so you're going to get the things you see, smell, hear, taste, and feel. And don't forget that both smells and emotions can leave a taste in your mouth. So, we don't always have characters walking around licking stuff in scenes, but a smell can leave you with a taste, or a certain emotion can leave you with a taste in your mouth as well. So go to a normal, regular place in your setting and describe it as if you were an alien seeing it for the very first time. That's a great point. Dave says the objects a character notices can say a lot about their personality. I wonder if you guys have had this experience. So a new coffee shop opened up near me. And last Saturday I was hanging out with a group of friends, and I mentioned this coffee shop. I was like, oh, have you been there? And somebody said no. And then a few other people who had been there and I all started trying to describe where it was. And we each gave a different landmark. So I was like, oh, it's it's across the parking lot with the Rite Aid in it. And somebody else is like, oh, it's right by the credit union. And somebody else said, oh, it's across the street from the grocery store. And all of those answers were correct, but I wouldn't have thought to describe it using those other two things, if that makes sense, right? For me, the thing that was most obvious was the Rite Aid. Like, go look for the Rite Aid and you'll find the coffee shop. But for the other people, it became clear like what was most obvious for them. So even that, what I'm noticing as I drive around town. I'm like, oh, I didn't know there was a credit union right there. But what we notice is peculiar to us and does, like, obviously I go to Rite Aid more than I go to a credit union. So definitely what people notice can inform you as to what they're focused on. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Robert. Yeah, down to like personality changes, and so Dave is making a comment about how you can show your character's arc based on what he notices at different parts of the story, like Scrooge noticing different things from the beginning of the story to the end. Lori says aliens trying to figure out a curling iron would be hysterical. Yeah, I think especially if they saw one in use. You're like, what is this strange torture device? You do it to yourself. Okay. Hi, Incy. Good to see you. All right, so that was places. And again, what I'm reading from is this resource that you can get at meganbarnhart.com /uplevel, all one word. And it's just some ideas for how you can take a new look at familiar surroundings and write about everyday things in extraordinary ways to uplevel your writing and wow your readers. So let's talk about people now. Imagine a character from your work in progress. This could be your protagonist, it could be your villain, it could be a supporting character, it could even be a minor character. Or think of a new character you want to explore and look at that person in a new way. One of my favorite questions to ask is, what's this person's superpower? And that just means what is this person extremely good at? It doesn't have to be a literal superpower, but it certainly could if that works for your genre. But just examine this person a little bit and is like, oh, what is something that people might not notice on the surface, but that's hiding a little bit deeper? And again, the point of these questions about people will be, how can you notice a little bit of magic in them? That trite trope about the shy girl, and then at some point in the movie she takes her glasses off and she shakes out her her bun and is like, oh, the love interest. So that's, in my opinion, quite overused. But what about the equivalent of that in somebody's personality, right? So like every day your character goes to the same coffee shop and orders from the same barista, and your character doesn't even, like, if she looked away, she couldn't even say what color hair this person had, right? It's just like the barista is basically a piece of furniture. Except one day your main character goes in and the barista is sobbing uncontrollably, like standing in the corner. And your character all of a sudden is like shocked into going, oh, this is a real person. And maybe they have a conversation, and things that you didn't know about this person come to the surface. So you can do that as the author about your characters. So here were some other questions. So what is her superpower? What is she extremely good at? What was the first moment she was ever really disappointed in life? Oh, I just thought this is a really fun question to think about. Like the first time an older kid, spoiled something, like Santa Claus isn't real, and you're like, oh. I'm reading Hogfather right now by Terry Pratchett, so that's on my mind. It's all about belief and what would happen if people stopped believing in Hogfather, who's the equivalent of Santa Claus. It turns out very bad things, so keep believing, please. But what was that first moment where her spirit got a little bit crushed? Because that would bring forward things about her that you might not already know and help you write about her in a scene with more empathy, more connection, more curiosity. And that's really the point of all of these, is if you can stir up your own curiosity as the author about people, places, and things, you're going to write about them in a different way, and you're going to make them come off the page and be a lot more engaging for your readers. What was her greatest fear as a child? Does she still have it? And what does it look like now? Maybe it's a fear of the dark that used to be paralyzing, and now it's, just moderate and under control. But when she has to, walk into the dark hallway and the light switches halfway down the hall, her heart rate quickens. What's her favorite kind of weather? How does she feel when it occurs? What kind of shoes is she wearing and why? Okay, she's approached by an animal. What kind of animal? How does she react? Why? Is there a history behind this? What was the last thing she ate or drank? How did it taste to her? Describe the experience from her point of view. And you can do that even for a character who is not your narrator. You know, these are things you can use as free writes. You guys know I'm all about the free write. You can use them to brainstorm. You can use them to just, you know, jot down answers and kind of fill in more of a character background or dossier if you think it would be helpful. No, Marina, Santa Israel. He Israel. That's why you should keep believing in him. And then this is a fun one to do. What's in your character's pocket or purse or rucksack or pouch or, you know, whatever your character uses to carry things? What's in it right now, and what significance do these objects have? So that's a whole long laundry list. And again, if you want to grab this, just have it all in one sheet, easy to look at. I will share the link again, where you can go ahead and grab that. You just need to put in your email. I'd love to hear if this sparked anything for you. Did it give you some more questions? Did it inspire you? Do you have some like some prompts that you have used before, or are the prompts that I just went through inspiring anything? You're like, oh, what about this question? I could use it to explore a character more. Please do share, because I bet the things that each of us will think of will be different from, we'll all think of different things. So if you share yours, somebody else will be totally inspired. But again, this is all about awakening your curiosity about your characters, about your settings, and about the objects that occur, no matter how mundane, so that you write about them with fresh eyes and your readers get to see them with fresh eyes. By the way, this is a very, very powerful, I don't know why I'm wagging my finger. Listen to this, guys. But this is a really powerful way if you're feeling stuck in a rut, writing in cliches or overused metaphors. If you are drafting or revising and you're like, oh my goodness, I keep saying things like her lips were as red as roses, and this was, you know, I find myself just using kind of overused metaphors or figures of speech. This is a great way to kick those, because you'll be looking at things with fresh eyes. You know, it's like, are people's lips really as red as roses? And if so, why? Like, what's the significance behind that? You know, like, ooh, red as roses. She got some new lipstick, or she's got a fever. So you know, that could be fun too, where you tackle a cliche and really go into what would that be like if it were literally, if lips were that red, what would be the reason why? All right. Any questions coming up or any comments? I'm going to scroll back through, but let's just kind of give people a minute. If you have a question or did something come up, an insight, can you see yourself using these questions? Is anybody in this situation right now where you're writing about a familiar setting and you had this thought like, oh, this is going to be a really cool detailed scene when my characters walk downtown, and then it's a couple paragraphs and you're like, that's not as interesting as I thought it was going to be. Oh, there was one more about places. I just reminded myself. Oh, there are two more about places. Okay, so one is, I'm sure I thought of this because there are a lot of vacant lots in my town, but I thought it'd be really cool if you find a vacant lot near you, or imagine a vacant lot in your setting, and ask what used to be there, when did it disappear, why, how, and is there any evidence of the old structure? And then you can go further and ask what mood is around this site. Oh, I just noticed a typo in the worksheet. Man, oh man. I'm always typing or instead of, or of instead of or. I switched those two. Anyway, sorry guys, there's going to be a typo. But what's the mood? Is it peaceful? Is it creepy? Is it somber? And again, that's just a way of taking something that, for me anyway, is normal and everyday. There are tons of vacant lots where I live, and going, what's behind it? Why is that vacant? What did somebody used to live there and it was haunted and they burned it down? And I don't know. I like to imagine all kinds of things like that. And then the last activity for place was draw a map of your setting. And if you have several different settings, like different towns or different cities, that's okay. Just choose one and put points on it, like point A and point B, and imagine that a character is going to travel from that one point to that second point, and just describe how that would happen. What mode of transportation would this person use? How long would it take? And what would the obstacles be? Now, this is not limited to your character is going from the Shire to the mountain where Smog lives and, has to travel in all kinds of, strange Middle Earth ways. This might be your character getting home from work and which bus she takes, and that old, creepy guy who always tries to sit next to her on the bus, and that woman who gets on at 3rd Street and always wants to chat with her about, I don't know, something she's not interested in. You can just imagine a journey in your setting, and then you're going to imbue the places with more significance because the significance will be based on maybe emotional impact that comes up for the character, or just even the physical challenges that come up traveling one place to another. Okay. Lori says, now I want to write a scene where Marie Antoinette finds a palette of Jeffree Star eyeshadow. I don't know what Jeffree Star eyeshadow is, but Marie Antoinette and eyeshadow, it sounds like a fun combination. I can only imagine what she would get up to. All right. Ooh, Ingrid has an idea for inspiration. Go around and locate all things with similar shapes or colors. Ooh, intriguing. So I am not at all artistically inclined, but I know that there's an exercise that people often do when they're drawing, and that's to turn the page they're drawing on upside down. And what this does is prevents your brain from going, okay, there's a bowl of fruit, and now I'm at the top and I'm drawing the berries, and now I'm drawing the mango, and instead invites your eye only to look at the shapes and the contours. And this is very powerful, apparently, supposedly. I haven't done it. Sapphire, I bet you've done something like this or taught an art class like this. But what it is supposed to do is turn off judgment and turn off, oh, that's not how this should look. And you just see, you just look. And again, you just get curious. So that's the theme of this. Get curious about your characters, about your settings, and about the objects you encounter. And that will allow your readers to get curious as well. All right, so go grab that free resource, Write About Everyday Things in Extraordinary Ways, meganmartinhart.com/uplevel. And let's keep this conversation going. If you have more inspiration, ideas, questions about how we can see the things we always see, but with new eyes, please do go ahead and add your comment. And if you're watching this as a replay, please play along and let us know what you do to reignite your curiosity and make the world around you seem new and fresh again. All right, I will catch you all later. Thank you so much for watching. It's always fabulous to see you on a Thursday, and take care. Happy writing.